I feel like everyone was expecting Columbus to just completely fall apart and crash and burn after all those people departing after the playoffs last year. But I'm very impressed with how they performed this year, considering all that. Um, yeah, it's just honestly impressive after losing all that talent to have such success this season as they did. Like at the start of the season, they came out super slow, and I was like, "Yep, this is exactly what I was expecting." And then they, despite all the injuries that they had on their roster, they went hot, and everything just kind of started clicking, and they just performed so well. So yeah, it's really impressive what they accomplished this season. Considering the expectations that I feel like a lot of NHL fans had for them.
Yeah, I mean, it was something for me that was unexpected. I predicted them, I think, to come in second to last, maybe, or last in the Metro just because it was so loaded. Unfortunately for myself, I had New Jersey in fourth, which is, wow, I'm just cringing at that pick. Um, but I mean, I saw Columbus play the Canes, and they had the Canes number this year. And I mean, they were just such a fast team. Like, I mean, they're so fast. They skate really well, and they just had guys who like really you didn't expect to step up. I think Dubois is a really good player. I think he's underrated. I mean, we give all the props, and no offense, but we give all the props to Panarin and Duchesne in this playoff run. But Dubois, we forget about Dubois. I mean, I think he's a really good player. And then, I mean, you have guys like Bjorkstrand who have 20-goal seasons. Foligno came out of nowhere. I think Texier is a great young rookie. Cam Atkinson, not a great season, but it was really sort of, the decor kind of lifting up the offensive woes. Also, Nyquist was a great signing, replacing Panarin. But it's kind of just a really weird, thinking that this Columbus team is, competing with the Maple Leafs in the playoffs. Just two teams that they're the 8 and 9 seeds, and you wouldn't think they're 8 and 9s based on the rosters, and comparing the roster talent. But overall, I mean, what do you think for this series, Max? What's your prediction?
Man, there's just so many question marks surrounding Toronto, and considering the subversion of my expectations that Columbus put me through this season, I would not put it past them to upset Toronto.
Wow. Yeah.
I just don't have. Toronto's year has not convinced me that they can do stuff in the playoffs. Too many question marks surrounding Toronto, and just Columbus. The Columbus team is just full of surprises, and I would not expect it. It wouldn't surprise me for them to surprise me again, if that makes any sense.
I mean, for me, it's really a struggle.
Yeah, I know it's a struggle. I can. It's a toss up for me. It's just, I'm kind of leaning a bit towards Columbus. Just something about this makeup for the Toronto roster does not feel right.
Here's what I'll say. I think that if Merzlikins plays well, which I think he will, they definitely have the advantage in goal. For sure have the advantage on defense. And you look at, the offensive performance from Columbus. I mean, they were able to stay in this playoff race because their top lines, which we all thought were horrible, with Dubois, Atkinson, and Nyquist as your first line, we didn't think that they would be able to compete with the top lines for the Eastern Conference, but they were able to. One thing that we forget about Columbus is their third and fourth lines and their depth. They actually have somewhat of a decent depth. It's still, for me, it's still, it's so hard to, you know what I mean? It's just so hard, honestly. I guess I'll go Columbus 3-2, but I mean that's just like it's just with such uncertainty.
I think it's gonna go to Game 5 regardless, but
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think I'll slightly take Columbus over Toronto. It's hard though. It's really hard to say.
And I went and part of me sees Matthews like taking over the series, or Marner or Tavares just dominating, and I'm kind of shaking my head like, wow, why didn't I see this coming? You know what I mean? Like, I see Matthews scoring a goal, and I'm just like, why did I not
Here's what I say.
take?
Toronto beating Columbus is what should happen, but I don't say. Will it happen? That's the question. Will it happen?
Yeah.
It should, but will it?
Exactly.
And I don't think it will.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. That's the best way to put it. I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go Columbus 3-2. It's the most uncertain I've ever been, though, in any series so far, like evaluating these playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll take Columbus 3-2. Moving on to our next series, we've got a little bit easier of a pick, I'll just put it that way. We got the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Montreal Canadiens. For Montreal, yeah, well, for Montreal, another just a disaster of a year, honestly, in my opinion. I mean, you have your best young player, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, sent down to the AHL. Big expectations from the third overall pick for the Canadians, and he's in the NHL right now. Another year of mediocrity from Carey Price on a sick contract. And then another year of Shea Weber being overrated and lamenting the PK Subban trade. Looking
I think I'm not sure if Weber is overrated. Definitely, I think Canadians are the winner of that trade with how it's turned out, like, currently. I don't know. We could argue that, but Weber, out of the two, has been the better defenseman. But I'm not sure if he might be overrated, but, like, it's not, like, I don't know.
But
if
Subban was on the Canadians, would he be this bad? The answer to me for that question is no. Like, there's no way he would be this bad if he was on the Canadians. If he was still on the Canadians,
I'm not sure if it's like team makeup though. Like, Subban, Weber, I don't know. Weber is great on defense, and he's got that bomb of a shot. But Subban, on the other hand, is a complete defensive liability, and he's supposed to have that offense to offset it, and maybe you're right, like on the Canadians, he might be able to produce that offense, but, if he doesn't produce that offense, he's basically useless.
Yeah, I mean, anyways, I guess, I see that. I just feel like...
I mean, we have to debate about something, because there's no debate about this series.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I mean, I just think,
with all these talks about Max Domi might not be playing because of his deficiency with his diabetes, how he can be more at risk of COVID. So their best player might not even be playing.
Jesus God. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, what I want to discuss in this series is, like, kind of the somewhat ignorance of the, Canadians front office to just be like, all right, we have a completely mediocre core of forwards and a mediocre defense, and we're just going to throw this team out onto the ice and expect to make the playoffs. Like, let's just talk about it. Like, your best forward is Max Domi, probably, right? Going into the season, he has a mediocre performance, and then surrounding him you have Drouin, Gallagher. Don't tell me Gallagher's a good player. All right, I'm sorry. Like, don't tell me he's underrated. Like, I do not think Gallagher's a good player. You have Drouin.
I can disagree with that, but go on.
Tatar, who actually had a really good season.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he had like
Alex Tatar.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good.
Tatar, and then, one bright spot for this team was Nick Suzuki, a young player who had, I think, like 40 points, which was a bit of a surprise. And then, turning over to their D-core, and I swear, when you go on every Montreal Canadiens, Twitter account, Instagram account, they always talk about how, our D-core is, like, so underrated. Like, I'll admit, Petrie is an underrated defenseman. I don't know if you agree with that or not. But besides for that, this is not a good D-core. This is not a good D-core.
Victor Meat is all right.
Yeah.
Victor Meat's all right. Petrie's good. I disagree with you on Weber. I think Weber's a very solid defenseman. But other than that, no.
What do you think about Gallagher? What do you let's here. What do you think about the Canadians forward core? And what do you like? Do you agree with me that it was kind of ignorant for them to just toss this mediocre team out on the ice and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna contend for a playoff spot like we did last
I
year?
don't think their goal was to contend, though. Like, I feel like they still understand that they're in a rebuild situation, but that they wanted to compete, and that's kind of put them in a spot where they're just kind of just treading water. The thing is, like, the Canadians, they had like 2 8-game losing streaks or something this year. If they win like half those games, like, it's a different talk about the season. Like, if they don't have those 2 losing streaks, and there's just like they had stretches where they're one of the worst teams in the league, and that's what makes them look even worse. When in actuality, they're like a middle of the road team right now at their best. But like at their best, they're serviceable, I guess. But like at their worst, it's kind of embarrassing.
I mean, it's for me. It's like when I look at this roster, right? It's hard. It's a little bit hard for me to believe. Like they almost made the playoffs last year. Like it was like one of those like where it was like game 82. Like it's coming down to the wire. Like, do you remember that? Like it was like
Yeah,
we almost
100%.
we could make the playoffs. And I think it's really impressive that they did that with this roster because in all honesty, and again, I'm being a little harsh here, but I look at this roster and it's just not there's just not a lot of talent overall.
Are you a little salty about the offer sheet for Aho?
Yeah, yeah,
Is
that's
that
it.
it? A little salty about that?
Yeah, no,
That could be it.
I mean, I thought honestly on the offer sheet, like I felt like if you're gonna offer him an offer sheet, like do it higher than that. Like, but it again that feeds into also like, oh well, and again I'm gonna mock you here, but well Shea Weber, I think he's a great defenseman. Well, he is overpaid, and that's why they can't offer him a higher offer sheet. Him and Carey Price. Um,
Yeah.
but so that offer sheet partly speaks to how they're also cap clogged, in my opinion. Um, so I think that this series, we don't even need to discuss who's going to win this series. I mean, do you think it's a sweep from Pittsburgh?
It could be. Super 3-0-3-1 at max.
Yeah.
Don't see it going to 5. I think a sweep is a real possibility for sure.
And obviously, I mean, we got to talk about the Penguins. Obviously, we're not going to talk about them in terms of a series sense, because I think they have the matchup in every
Fucking
category
hate them.
against
Fucking
Montreal.
hate them. But they're
As
good.
Max has a hatred.
Makes me hate them.
I know. Max obviously has some hatred for the Penguins. I don't as much. But as a Rangers fan, I can understand that rage. But anyways, going on to the Penguins, what
We're
do
a
you?
Caps fan too. Like,
Yeah,
I just literally in every team I root for, just like fuck the Pens. Like, holy shit, I fucking hate them. And I get it. Like, their reign of terror like was in the era where Carolina wasn't in like any playoff spot really. Like, they got Crosby. Like, Canes won in 2006. They got Crosby. That was Crosby's rookie year. Then they went on the upswing, and the Canes like haven't had like that. The Canes haven't had a reason to. Canes haven't had a reason to hate the Penguins. I would say, right?
yeah. I mean, they gave us Eric Stahl also, so thanks for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's
But,
crazy.
Like,
It's
for every
crazy.
other team in the Metro, God,
Yeah.
I want to fucking strangle that flightless bird. Like, goddamn.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, taking a look at the Pens, I mean, I thought they did make some really good moves at the deadline. They did trade for Marlowe as, kind of a third line, add another veteran to that mix. They got Jason Zucker from the Wild, which I thought was a pretty good deal. I mean, adding depth to your kind of weak forward core. Looking at their defense, a bit of a weakness here. They still have Dumoulin, who had an okay season. Obviously, you have Chris Letang, who, in my opinion, and we can start a debate on this, I think Chris Letang is overrated. I don't think he's as good of a D-man as a lot of people proclaim him to be. Um, he brings no physical presence whatsoever, and I mean he hasn't had the points really to make up for his offensive and puck moving claims. But
I mean, I have
also,
some sympathy for the guy because of everything he's gone through health wise.
yeah,
Like, it's not like a broken like bone or anything. It's just like other heart issues and stuff like that, concussions.
hmm
Yeah, I feel for the dude,
I
and
do
I
too.
think it
Yeah.
has affected his play. But he has that potential to be that elite defenseman that he used to be. And honestly, like we were talking about earlier about Toronto and how they have this offensive-minded kind of setup for their team, and how we aren't sure like if it can actually work in the playoffs. But the Penguins have had that. Like in their 2 cups, like everyone said their decor was shit, but they won 2 cups straight.
I disagree
Because
with
of
that
their
also.
offense and their really.
I disagree